Welcome to the EveryDream2 Trainer RunPod tutorial video. I'm going to go over the setup steps and how to get started using RunPod to run EveryDream2. To start out, you just want to be on the EveryDream2 Trainer repository, and we're going to scroll down, and we're going to go right into the RunPod and Vast tutorial and explanation document, which you can get from the main page. For RunPod, it's actually quite easy. All you need to do is click on your EveryDream2 template link right here at the top. If you are new to that and you wish to help support the project and get a couple small percentage of what you're spending on RunPod to go back to the project, so I can use that to run RunPod, I would appreciate it if you use the referral link. If you're already on RunPod, no big deal. So we'll just click on the RunPod or the EveryDream2 template link, and this is going to take you right to RunPod, and it's going to select the pre-made Docker container for you. And from here, you can either use Community or Secure Cloud. I'm not going to cover that in this video, but since the 3090 is not available on Secure Cloud, you could use A5000, which is about equivalent, or you could use Community Cloud. I generally recommend a 3090 is a really good deal. It trains fast, has 24 gigs, which is going to be plenty to do everything you want to do. You can choose other things if you want. And then you can go right in here and select a 3090, or if you want, and how I actually recommend it is to click on Browse Servers. And here we're going to select the 3090, and we don't really care about having multiple GPUs. And what I'm going to do is um, basically scroll through one of these and make sure that I have good bandwidth. And it's something I'm in the US, so I'm going to try also to get a server that's in the US that has decent bandwidth. This one's not bad, 365 and 639 is okay. Let's see if we can find anything that's better. Here we go. Here's one in the US. It has a little bit better bandwidth. We don't necessarily care about CPU. RAM we don't care about. You really only need 16, 20, a little bit extra might help a little bit, but it's not a big deal. If you have tons and tons of images, like hundreds of thousands, you will want more system memory, but you uh, won't need it for most use cases. So this one's got 37 gig, plenty of upload. It's in US, so it's closer to me. 3090, plenty of disk space. This one's going to be good. So I'm going to click deploy on it. You should already have some of this stuff set up. Temporary disk you don't really care about so much, just leave that. Persistent, if you're going to train for a really long time, every time it creates a checkpoint, it's going to be about 6 or 7 gigabytes. So I would go ahead and recommend just get more volume, persistent volume than you think you need. You don't really need to encrypt it. You can do that if you want and read on the documentation about that on RunPod's website if that's something that you really want. But this will do for me, and I'm going to go ahead and click deploy. And we'll click on my pods, and we'll just wait for this guy to spin up. This will take just a minute. It's going to download the Docker container, which is going to have all the dependencies already set up for you, so you don't have to worry about running installs for Torch or anything like that. And I'm probably just going to fast forward here in a minute for when this is actually done. Okay, the installation is done, and you can see here I've got my pod utilization and some other metrics. That means it's done, and I also have the connect options open. And here you can actually launch both TensorBoard and the Jupyter Notebook connection, and I recommend you go ahead and use both. So there it is, loading up my or the TensorBoard from port 6006, and then the Jupyter Notebook is going to be the connection for port 8888. So I'll just click on both of those, and now I've got both of these tabs active. By default, when you open up Jupyter, there is a password uh, on the notebook, so that it's less likely that somebody will get in and hijack your the thing that you're paying for, the instance you're paying for. So probably a good idea just to leave that on. You can technically turn it off, but it is on by default, and the password is just EveryDream with a capital E and a capital D. So I just typed in EveryDream here and click login, and it will only take a moment to load up. And here we go. And then when you're connected, all we really need to do to get started, I'm going to expand this just to make it a little easier. We're going to open up this trainjupyterlab.ipynb. Just double click on it, and then here's our notebook. And then I'm going to go into the input folder over here and click the upload button. And this is off screen, but I am opening up this, when you click the upload button right here, this little up arrow on the top left above the input folder here, underneath the run button, it launches a file browser for your computer. And I'm going to go select a whole bunch of images. We'll just upload all my images of Cloud Strife. And I just click the OK button, and you can see that they're uploading now. And you also see a little progress bar down here, and see as the images actually load. And we'll just give that a moment, and it's already done. So it says complete at the bottom, and the uploading progress bar at the bottom is gone. That means we're good to go. So we've gone past. There's some explanation. You can read this. You can actually read this on the repo too. If you want to read into all of this, there's plenty of documentation inside the repo itself that I do recommend you read through. But for now, we're going to just, for the sake of the tutorial, we're going to skip that, and we're just going to say that we uploaded our files into the input folder, and then we're pretty much ready to just go right into start training. And here is our start training task. And pretty much if you're okay with the defaults, it's going to be 200 epics, and we're going to get a sample every 150. We're going to save a checkpoint every 35 epics as well. We're going to use a 1.2 to the -6 power learning rate, which is pretty good for a default 1.5 stable diffusion 1.5 training. We're going to use the base model here is going to be stable diffusion 1.5, which is hosted here on this link. If you want to put anything else in here, you can. Just put in a username / model name from Hugging Face, and it will just download it and resume from that. So you can put in anything else you want that's hosted publicly on Hugging Face. And that's pretty much all you is absolutely required to get started. And I can go ahead and click the start button here, and we'll give that a moment. It's going to kick off training, and it's first going to download our base checkpoint, which in this case is this one, this address. This will take a minute or two, but usually pretty fast. You can see it's just downloading the whole thing at once, and we'll just have to basically wait for this is the bigger chunk here is the 1.2 gig file, and then the 3.44 gig file here is the UNet model. And I will again just wait offline here and cut this out of the video while we wait for this to download, but you can see it's going pretty fast. Alright, this guy's just about downloaded. Once this big chunk is finished, it's actually going to start training pretty quickly. We'll just keep scrolling down. Don't worry about these clip feature extractor version warnings. You can just ignore that. It's just a warning, not an error. And it's already loaded, preloaded my 191 images that I put in this input folder. That's what the preloading is. And it is kicked off on training. So you can see here we've got our epic progress bar and our steps progress bar. There's a couple nasty characters in here because Colorama is used for local users. You'll just have to ignore some of these crazy characters in there. And again, there's some other, this is another warning, don't worry about it. Just has to do with some package versions that are being updated, and that is kind of life when you work on machine learning, is a lot of these packages are constantly being updated and deprecating things in the future. But unless it says actual error, the word error appears there, you don't have to worry about it. This one is just user warning. So user warnings, you can ignore those. And it's already done with one epic. It's at 1 out of 200 of our epics, which we set here. And this will continue training. While that's training, on the other tab that we opened up from the port connect to port 6006, you can see the tensor board, and usually this won't update as quickly automatically as you might like, so just click the refresh at the top and you can see that it's going to have all your logs. And not a whole lot to see yet because not much has been logged. It's just started training. But I will, again, pause the video here for a minute or two and we'll see how these guys update. Okay, it looks like we've got a little bit more to log. We're now a couple hundred steps into training. And one thing I'm going to recommend for you to change on your tensor board is to set the smoothing down. If you want, you can set it to 0.1 or just drag it all the way over to 0. And I also recommend that you check this box here that says ignore, uncheck this box that says ignore outliners in chart scaling, because sometimes you won't get to see the whole graph. For the most part in here, for most users, you're going to want to be looking at your samples. This is going to be the most meaningful, and those are going to be down at the bottom. And you can see we have our sample blocks, and I'm just going to open all of those up. And you can see here that I've got my test samples. You can see this one obviously still looking a little bit derpy. So yeah, this is early in training, so it still needs a little work. But you can watch your progress, and once you get more samples, these bars here will let you slide the bar left and right. So you can actually take a closer, you can look at the progress of your training. A couple other things you can look at here. Hypergrad scaling, hyperparameter grad scale is mainly just for troubleshooting. This should be somewhere around values like 1, whatever, E plus 4 plus 7 plus 6 plus 5, whatever. As long as this doesn't go to like negative 10, you should be fine. Mainly, you don't need to worry about that. If something is showing negative, the value there shows something E negative 10, then something's gone wrong. This will mainly just bounce up and down a little bit as training progresses. You can monitor your the learning rate for both the text encoder and the UNet here. This is mainly just for you to confirm it's doing what you think. If you're using like a cosine schedule, you can see that it's actually following the schedule. Or if you've defined that your text encoder is using a different learning ratio, different learning rate by ratio, you can check that here. Those tweaks will be out of scope for this video. You can look at the loss per epoch, the loss per log step. These two are not terribly useful. They bounce around a lot. But if you are using validation, you'll also see loss/val. And again, that will be out of scope for this video. But you can see the loss trend if you're using loss, the validation loss. You can also watch the performance, the images per second. You can see on RunPod, this will be very consistent because the machine shouldn't be doing anything else. You can see here it's in a very tight ratio between 7 to 8 images per second, and minutes per epoch is also, it will just spike up when it is doing a sample. So you can see here the spike here at step 160 was because this is when it generated a sample, because we were sampling every 150, so somewhere in here it did a sample, which is reflected on the performance, how often or how long it takes per epoch to run. You can see VRAM usage here. It's actually quite low because gradient checkpointing is turned on, which we could actually turn off on a 3090, but it is defaulted to on. Gradient checkpointing is, again, a setting that I won't cover in this video, but it reduces VRAM use, so we're only using 14.5 gigabytes or so of the 24 that we have available. And then you've got your samples. So that's pretty much it. Once your training has actually produced a checkpoint, if we go back to our notebook and we look in the EveryDream2 folder, so if you were previously in the input folder here to upload your images, just go click on the folder icon here above input. So it'll take you back to the root folder. If you hover here, you're going to see over this little icon on the top left, the folder icon. It's not showing up in the video, but if I hover over it, it says /workspace/EveryDream2 trainer. And this is where all the trainer stuff is. You'll see your .checkpoint files show up here, and all you need to do to get those downloaded is you can just right click and download. Also, after training, if you want, when the training is stopped, you can go down and actually use the Hugging Face upload. So if you have a Hugging Face account and you want to just upload that to your Hugging Face account, you can use this cell here. You'll just put your username in here, and then the model path, the model name. So if it was, let's say Final Fantasy, 7 Cloud Strife. You do need to make sure that you've created your model first on the Hugging Face website. Again, I will leave that out of scope, but you can pretty much just put in your username and then put in the model that you've already created there. You upload this and you just run the cell, and it's going to upload star.checkpoint. It's going to look at all the checkpoint files that might be over here in this folder that it created and upload those to Hugging Face for you. And when you go to Hugging Face, then you will need to go to the community tab, and it actually creates a pull request. So make sure you just click accept on your pull request, and then the checkpoint will be there, and you can download it later from Hugging Face after you've shut down your RunPod instance. That's pretty much it. I'm going to keep the video short and sweet for this and not get into too much on settings. If you do need help with settings, I will create some other videos on how to tweak your training settings and tweak your train.json. So you can do some more fine tuning and or more tweaking and hyperparameter work, and tweaking your learning rate, or tweaking all of the various settings in EveryDream. Those are all documented in the main repo. I would recommend you go read through some of that stuff. And of course, if you do have any questions or need help, if you scroll back up to the top of the notebook, there is a link to the EveryDream Discord. The best place, if you have any problems or you're not sure what to do, is probably to join the Discord, join the help channel, and ask for help there. It's going to be the fastest way for you to get a response on any troubles you're having, or if you have any questions on how to run this. But that's it for now, and I will see you guys next time. I do have some more videos in the pipeline that will explain how to do this also on VAST, and also how to do to tweak other training settings. Thanks.